What's up, gamers and collectors? DGC back with another video. Today I wanted to talk about backlog, the ever-growing backlog that we all have to deal with, that we all say we're going to play, that we all say we're going to beat, but we never do. I thought of an idea of finally how I'm going to tackle my backlog, and I'd be curious to see your guys' thoughts after I get done explaining how I'm going to do it. Let's talk about it. Alright guys, so the ever-growing backlog, it just never stops. Here's a fatty stack of PS5 games, mostly RPGs. This is next week's pickups video. Just random PS3 games here. We got Golden Axe, which I've always wanted to beat. Always just wanted to try it. It's kind of a cool little game. Fracture, again, very unique, cool game. This was actually one of the last LucasArts games that they ever made, so kind of cool to think about. Lair, Factor 5, they don't exist anymore either. So again, just a game that I always wanted to try and I've owned for so long and just never beat it. Vikings, just again, always wanted to try it and just never did. I've owned so many of these for so long. Time Shift, I've played a good bit of this and it's really good, and then I just stopped playing it and never went back. And now I'm committed. I want to play this, right? Haze, not the greatest game, but again, I've always wanted to play it and commit to it. Never did. Or Sonic, Frontiers. I played a good bit of this. I enjoyed what I did, and then I just stopped playing it, and I gotta stop doing that. You know, here's just some other random things. Like some of these, Blast Corps, I repurchased this. I have physically owned this game for damn near 20 or 25 years, and I have never beaten it, and that's such a shame. Rockstar, of all people, made this game, which is kind of cool to think about, but again, I've never beaten it. I've played it for many hours, many times, but I've just never beaten it. And like this year, I'm beating this game. I'm sitting down, and I'm beating it. And I'm playing it on the Trinitron because I want to, and I'm excited about it. Or like Winback. I sought this out for my collection. It's not expensive, it's not rare, but it's a cool game. This was kind of like the predecessor of like Cliff Bleszinski. Like he's been quoted as saying like Gears of War came from like seeing this game, and then like it led to that happening. So like I love Gears of War. I've played Winback a good bit. It's a cool game. I'd like to actually beat it, you know? Here's something right here. This one's near and dear to my heart and my sister. I have an older sister. We used to play video games together when I was growing up. She doesn't play games anymore. But Pac-Man 2, The New Adventures, right? I have owned this game for the better part of 30 years and never beaten it. I am 34 years old. This is one of the first games that I ever had. I've played it, the first hour of it, the first stage of it, probably 30 or 40 times, with the little bees that can sting you, and then you got to get the milk for the baby and the skateboard and the birds and just all the different things that are in this intro level, and I never beat it. And again, I'm beating this game this year, no matter what it takes. It has to happen. And here we go to a further stack. OG Xbox. Arguably, I'm going to say it, I probably have one of the better OG Xbox collections out of anyone on YouTube, other than what the hell was his name? Kevin Ganthy, I think. Doesn't even make videos anymore. One of my favorite channels. Chris Ganthy, I think was his name. He had about 30,000 subscribers. He did a lot of Framemeister content. That's how I found him. And then he started doing game reviews, and then he just stopped. I was pissed. One of my favorite channels. But he has a complete OG Xbox collection. I've always been super jealous of that. But nevertheless, mine's still impressive because I have all the exclusives plus pretty much all the good games. But I digress. Some of the great games on the original Xbox, like Sudeki. My good buddy Tyler Stevenson beat this last year. He said it was a really good game. This is on my list this year to beat this finally, you know. I've owned that game for probably 20 years, and I've just never beaten it. And it's such a shame because it's a cool game. Is it the greatest game? I don't know. But I'm going to beat it this year and find out. Crimson Sea. If you go all the way back to my Steel Battalion unboxing video, which is one of the first videos I did on the channel, I was so proud to get Steel Battalion, which again, that's now on my list of 2024 games that I need to beat. Like, how did I spend $250 on Steel Battalion and never beat it? Crimson Sea. I got this and Maximum Chase for free with my Steel Battalion, which was also sealed. All that shit was sealed. I opened it all in that unboxing video, and I still never beat this either. Again, this kind of caught my eye. This is exclusive to the Xbox. Its sequel is exclusive to the PS2. I need to track that down. At one point in time, I did own it. Then I sold it. Now I need to find it again. Here are 2 sealed Xbox games. Jaeger and Spike Out Battle Street. This is worth about $100. I'm going to open it for sure. It's just sealed because that's how I bought it. And then, my God, is this game worth a lot of money now. This is worth about $300 or $400 sealed. But your boy's going to open it, and I'm going to play it and enjoy it, because I don't give a shit. I paid $5 for this so many years ago, and it's just been sealed sitting on my shelf. At some point this year, I'm going to open it. One last little stack here. I'm not going to ruin this stack, because this is a future pickups video. You're going to see one of those, that Dragon Quest there. But, you know, here's a bunch of PS2 games. I've been getting so into RPGs and shoot-em-ups and this and that, and I keep buying all this stuff. And an RPG average 25 hours minimum, up to 100 hours to beat it, right, and enjoy it. And I enjoy RPGs, and like I've been dying to play. Again, Tyler Stevenson, big RPG guy. He was like, "Oh man, Alex, you got to play Dragon Quest 8 because he's currently playing Dragon Quest 7 on the 3DS, and then he played Dragon Quest 8 last year on the PS2." And I'm in a little chat group with him, and he's always talking about all these RPGs he's playing. And after so long of hearing him talking about all these damn RPGs all the time, I'm like, God, I got to get some of these games and play them and enjoy them like he does. And then that kind of leads me into like something like this. This actually was from Tyler Stevenson. I bought this as well as this the day they came out, unbeknownst to me. I didn't know about Operation Rainfall until years later. Didn't know any of that shit. I was really never even into RPGs until pretty much now. And I bought both these. I happened to walk into GameStop, buy both these the day they came out. This is still my original copy of this. I never got rid of this because I knew I would never get this back in this condition, right? And then this, I did unfortunately sell. Steve bought it for me again. This is an absolute mint copy. Thank you, Steve. This is now my forever copy. I'm never going to get rid of it. I will always appreciate that Steve found me a nice copy of this and keep it. Now, the reason I bring up Xenoblade is because I owned it for so many years, and then I never played it. And then they announced the Switch port, and then I played it on the Switch. Well, I started playing it on the Wii, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to wait to play it on the Switch. I replayed it on the Switch all the way through, and now I fucking love the Xenoblade games. So had I never, like, delved into the backlog, and then they announced it, and then now the Xenoblade games are my favorite RPGs. I want to get the Xenosaga games. I've played Xenogears like a little bit. And then like the last story. Again, I've owned this game. When did this come out? 2012, I think, is when this came out. I've owned this for so long. Like the art book has never even barely been touched. The game itself has never been touched. They had an additional CD soundtrack, which you got the day, like if you bought it that day, I think. This didn't come in here. Still sealed. Like, not that I'm just like jamming out the CD soundtracks, but again, I need to play these games. Like I'm tired of looking at all this shit on my shelf and just never playing it. And pretty much all these games that I'm showing you, these are all games that, like, for whatever weird reason, I'm playing them this year, right? Here's just a couple more things I wanted to show you, and then I'll talk about my like idea of how I think I'm gonna tackle my backlog, and then I think how I think you guys should maybe too. I now have so many shoot 'em ups that I just have a binder full of PS4 5 shoot 'em ups here. Just so many, ever growing. Now granted, you can beat a shoot 'em up within like an hour typically, but to like fully play it and enjoy it, it takes some time. Another CD binder here. This one I'm kind of embarrassed about. So my good friend Rocker Gaming, because of him, I have a modded Dreamcast where I can put in an SD card, download any game I want, play it on the Dreamcast, and it's also HDMI modded. It has the fan mod. It's fully modded. I never used the damn thing, right? And then my GameCube. I love the GameCube. I have pretty much all of the good games for the GameCube from my childhood. I've already played all of them. But there are a few select GameCube games that I don't have. Fire Emblem, Chibi Robo, which I have owned those in the past, but I didn't beat them. So again, we're going to talk about that in a sec. And then the Sega Saturn and the Sega CD, which brings me into this binder. This is a burn binder. This is just burns. Dreamcast, CD, and Saturn games. Just so many. Robo Aleste, Rise of the Dragon, Earthworm Jim. Here's one I have actually beat. Final Fight CD and Road Rash. I've beaten those. KO Flying Squadron. Snatcher, Popful Mail, Vey, both the Lunar games, Android Assault. Here's some Cannon Spike, Power Stone, all the Shenmue games. This is Shenmue 2 for the Dreamcast, converted to English from Europe, and I think it has like a 60 hertz patch on it on this burn. Panzer Dragoon, Panzer Dragoons Vi, Three Dirty Dwarves, Sonic R, Clockwork Knight, just all these different fighting games, all these different shoot 'em ups. So many Guardian Heroes, Dragon Force, Shining Wisdom. Oh, these are Sega. Yeah, these are Saturn games. Thunder Force, Albert Odyssey. Oh my God, I've always wanted to play Albert Odyssey. I have a burn that works on my awesome modded Sega Saturn. Shout out to that video I did years ago. And that had to have been 2018 maybe even 2017 when I got my badass Saturn and burnt all these games. Magic Knight, Ray Earth, Shining Force. I have all the scenarios. I have Shining Force 3. There's 1, 2, and 3 scenarios. I think our Shining Force that we got was only scenario 1. 2 and 3 I think were only in Japan. These are like the English patched, converted versions, burnt on discs. Here's a solid one right here. Panzer Dragoon Saga, all 4 discs on burn, right? And all these work for sure, and I've just never gotten around to it because there's just so many of them. Here's the Sega CD games: Road Rash, Demolition Derby. No, maybe these are still Saturn games, I guess. Nights into Dreams, Dracula X, Tomb Raider, Super Tempo, Bug. I digress. There's so many games. Sega Ages, Astal, Mega Man 8, Shinobi. There's just so many games here. There's literally just this many, and there's 8 per page. Some discs are double discs. That's all the stuff I was going to show. How am I going to actually tackle my backlog is what I kind of wanted to talk about. So right now, I am currently playing this game. Star Ocean, the second R. I'm not going to talk about it too much. And then prior to that, I was playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. And then prior to that, I was playing Super Mario RPG. And then prior to that, I was probably playing a different RPG. Like I said, I've gone RPG crazy. But what I plan on doing to tackle my backlog, I think this could work for me. And again, I kind of want your guys' opinion. I'm doing a PS5 game, right? Then I'm going to switch to something on the Saturn. So I'm going to utilize all my systems, but then also tackle a game in my backlog, right? So I have some systems here that just have not, they've been plugged in and just sitting there, and I clean them every once in a while, right? Wipe off the dust, put some wood polish on them to make them look nice, but they just sit there, and then they collect dust, and then I don't use them. And then I look at it, and I feel guilty, and I'm like, oh man, I have all these expensive, rare games for these systems, but I don't play them, or I have expensive, rare burns for the Sega systems, because I'm a brokey. But yeah, you know, and even like some Super Nintendo games that I picked up recently, like, you know, they're not super expensive, but again, I want to play them, and I bought them to play them. So yeah, you know, like basically what I plan on doing is I'm going to do the PS5 game, then I'm probably going to switch to a Saturn game, fully beat that and enjoy it, whether it's an RPG or even just shoot 'em up, or maybe Castlevania X or Dracula X or whatever it is, or maybe Mega Man 8, I don't know. And then I'm probably going to jump to an original Xbox game, then I'm going to jump to an N64 game, probably Blast Corps, probably what I will try to beat. And not try, I'm going to do it. Like I have to, right? And then like all these PS2 games I got, I'm going to finally use my PS2. I never played PS2. I was an OG Xbox and GameCube and Dreamcast guy that generation. I really never played or loved the PS2. I'm a big PlayStation guy since 3 and up, but 2 and back, I really never had much affinity for the PS1 or the 2. And there's so many cool games for those systems that I just never had exposure to. Either I just didn't have friends that had them, or I just I never had them, and the PS1 and PS2 have such massive libraries of games that I've never even played. Some shit that I like. Those are two systems that I really have no knowledge on, right? There are 4 systems that I have no knowledge on. PS1, PS2, Sega Master System, and TurboGrafx. Those are the 4 systems I really just don't know anything about. Whether it be the game prices, what are the cool games, other than like first party stuff on the PS2. And maybe the PS1 a little bit. But as far as Master System goes, don't know diddly squat about that. TurboGrafx, I really know nothing about that. Those are 2 systems. Turbo and the Master are systems that I'd like to add to the collection at some point. Those are really the last 2 systems I want to add to the collection. It's really all that's left at this point. I have every other mainstream console, and I've had all these for so long. But yeah, I want to know what you guys are doing to tackle your backlogs, because I need to stop buying so many, but then I also need to just beat what I have. Like, for instance, I was kind of stuck in this game for a little bit, and then like I put it down. I'm loving it. It's a fantastic, beautiful, amazing story. There's a lot of cool plot twists toward the end, and it's just a really good game, and I'm really enjoying it. And I am going to beat it. Like, I'm making a new commitment in 2024 and like into the future. Whenever I put in a game, unless I absolutely hate it, I'm beating it. And if I do hate it and I'm just not enjoying it, it's leaving the collection. It's not going to stay, right? There's no point in keeping games you don't like, right? So this I love. This is a really good game. I like Claude. I like Reyna. Bowman's really good character in the game, and I'm really enjoying the game and the story and the atmosphere and the traversing and the leveling up and the grinding, and it's just a really good RPG. I think I'm close to the end of it, so that's great. I think I'll be able to squeeze in, depending on like some shorter games, like if I do like Pac-Man or like maybe Winback and Blast Corps, I might be able to squeeze all these in before Final Fantasy VII Rebirth comes out. And that's the shitty thing, because then when games come out that you really want to play, then you have to shelf the backlog again to play the current new cool game that comes out. So I got to thinking about something else too. So we're all us Nintendo boys and girls, we're all excited about the new Nintendo console that's coming. We know it's coming, right? I don't necessarily think that it's coming this year. We're definitely going to learn about it this year, but I don't think it's releasing this year. I think we're going to learn about it later in the year, maybe the summer to fall is when we're going to learn about it. It's personally what I think, and I think it will release again next March, April time. So 2025 is when I personally think it's going to come out. That's just my opinion. I think its big launch title is probably going to be a 4K upscaled, well, not upscaled, but like a full 4K remake of Luigi's Mansion. It's kind of what I think is going to be the launch title. It's just my personal opinion. So with that being said, though, do I even buy the new console? Have you ever gotten to a point, and again, I pose this question to you as well, have you ever gotten to a point in your collection where you're just like, man, I can't be buying any more consoles. I just don't have the time, the funds, or the ability to play more games, or even space. Like, if I'm gonna do some nice panning shots of all this different stuff while I'm talking about it, but like, do I even have room for any more consoles? I really don't. Like, I could probably fit maybe, depending on what size or shape or configuration that the Switch's successor is, if it even is a hybrid console. It may not be. We don't know. We won't know until they tell us. We all assume it's going to be. Again, for my personal predictions, I think we're going to get 2 SKUs. I think one will be a dedicated home console, and I think one will be a hybrid type console similar to the Switch, is what I personally believe. But that's just my opinion. If you guys want a dedicated video on Switch 2 predictions, I will give that to you. Leave a comment down below if you do want to see that. But so as far as space goes, if it is a Switch 2 type thing and it's a similar size and structure, I could just put it next to the Switch. And if it is, again, it'll probably be backwards compatible, so I can just take the Switch out of the lineup and then put that there, kind of like with the PS5, basically as a PS4, except for the like 10 games that it can't play. Same thing with the Xbox Series X. It can play most of the 360 games that you're going to want to play, and then the OG Xbox is always going to be in my lineup on the shelf here. But as far as that goes, I don't really have any room for any more systems. Like, if I were to get a Turbo and a Master, I don't even know where they would fit, and let alone another Nintendo console. And then there's already rumors that the PS6 is coming soon. I mean, dude, I can only imagine how much the PS6 is going to cost. And then at the same time, how big do you guys think the next PlayStation is going to be? It's going to just be this massive, like, just unit. Like the, what was it the PSX? It was like, the PSX was like a weird PS2 thing that they only had in Japan. But it was like just this huge honking VCR looking thing. That's what I imagine the PS6 is going to look like. Just this massive, like toaster oven sized system. But yeah, that's how I plan on tackling my backlog this year. Just going from one system to the next. There's a lot of Switch stuff. Like that last pickups video I did with all those different Switch games. I want to play pretty much all those as well. So like, I just don't know how I'm going to have the time, let alone, just time is really the enemy with, especially if you're into RPGs. That's the enemy. I mean, let alone, basically it takes you like a month to beat this, right? Or at least for me, as far as amount of time I get for games. I think I've already put damn near 25, 30 hours into this. And I've only been playing it since, I think, a little bit after Christmas. So, and then this was 40 hours to beat this one. And it's just the time. It's a time battle is what it is. But I'd be curious to know what your guys' opinions are on how you tackle your backlogs. I really would, because I want to be able to stay focused and beat these games and enjoy them at the same time. And I think it'll be kind of cool to, because I haven't even turned my Saturn on, and it's probably been 2 or 3 years, maybe longer. And that's such a shame that I have such this badass Saturn and I just don't even use the damn thing. Or Sega Genesis. Technically, right now, the only game that I own for that is Xenocrisis, which isn't even like a official game. That's just a crowdfunded Kickstarter game. PS2, I didn't even own any games until I bought these 5 games right here. So I mean, it's kind of cool to get back into collecting for these games. I don't even own a single PS1 game, and for NES, I only own 1 physical game right now. So I mean, I'm excited to get back into collecting for them, but at the same time, it kind of gives me a fresh start on these consoles too, which is kind of exciting. I can now cultivate and build the collections the way I want and enjoy the game slowly. Like right now, I only own Kirby for the NES. It's a game that I absolutely love. It's the same game that every time I've sold off my NES collection, Kirby is always the same game that gets bought first. It's always funny because it was actually the first game that I vividly have memories of. It's not the first game I played, but it's the first game that I vividly have memories of is Kirby for the NES because I played it at my childhood babysitter's house. And I just vividly remember playing a lot of Kirby as a kid on my NES. And it's funny too, on a side note, some of these consoles, I've owned some of these consoles for a long time. Like that NES is not even technically my NES. It's actually my childhood best friend's NES. His name's Chris. Haven't spoken to him in 15 years probably. Pretty much since we graduated high school, we just drifted apart. I miss him. I have no way of contacting him at this point. It's his NES. If he ever wanted it back, I'd give it back to him. I'd be sad to see it go because I've had that in my possession. He let me borrow it when I was like 13. So I'm 34 now. So I've had that thing in my possession for the better part of 20 years. And then my Super, I got that when technically me and my sister got that when I was 4. She would have been like 8 maybe, 7 or 8. So we've had that since 1994, and here it is, 30 years later, still kicking. No yellowing on it too. It's mint. N64, I've had that thing forever. The Genesis, that was one of my first pickups that I got. Same with this Dreamcast, at the flea market back in the day when I first started collecting. So it's still kind of cool to have both those in my collection all these years later. Same with this PS2. I've had that PS2 and my OG Xbox. All these systems are all my original systems. It was one thing on a very early age in my collecting. I was like, I'm never going to sell the systems because I had to spend so much hours getting money to buy these systems, and it was always such a cool feat. As a young person buying a new console, it's always such a cool thing to finally save up the money and get that new console. And I treasure those memories of like getting those consoles, Like I still vividly remember having my mom drive me to get my original Xbox, the Halo Edition, Special Edition, and my dad being pissed when I brought that thing home because it was a mature rated game, and I think I was 14 when I brought that home, so it was 3 years before I should have been playing Halo. Good times, good times. But yeah, that's how I plan on tackling the backlog. One system, jumping over, and I'm just really going to try to use all my systems and everything. But be sure to leave a comment down below on how you plan on tackling your backlog this year. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear what games you plan on tackling this year. I have a lot. Like, honestly, there are 15 360 RPGs that I honestly want to tackle this year. I've owned most of those for damn near 10 years of this, 5-10 years. And I just never gotten around to it. Phantasy Star Universe is for sure on this list this year of games that I want to play. I don't know why. I just want to play it. I've always owned it, and I just never gotten around to it. But this year, I'm going to do it. All right, guys. Peace out for now. Till next time.
Come here, you mother... This is it, baby.